Hey, how y'all doing? This is Hunt 919 Truth to Sports coming to you with another segment. Like, comment, and subscribe. Hopefully, you're having a good day and a good night. Let's get right into it. This is my preseason prediction for the University of Central Florida, UCF, versus Colorado. So let's get right into it. A little bit about Colorado. They can be known, or they are known for the most part, as a ranked program. In 2017, they went undefeated and they claimed a national championship for themselves. The actual champion was Clemson, but from what I read up on, the NCAA did recognize them as also a national champion. So if you want to know more about that, you can dig into that. I'm very familiar with who they are because in Conference USA and the American Conference, they was with my school, East Carolina. So I've always heard of Central Florida, especially when they had those ranked teams. But we've always played them well. And from doing my research, they actually have us as a rival of theirs. So they obviously take us seriously when we play them because we have. I don't want to get too much into East Carolina, but up until the last couple of years, we always had a good team that was bold bound and very competitive. But last 2 years they've struggled. But that's another story. It's another segment. They've been to 15 bowls in all. They're 6-9 in those bowls. They've been ranked in the AP poll 3 times preseason. 5 times they've been ranked, and then they lasted 54 weeks in those rankings, meaning they stayed in those rankings 54 weeks, throughout time. So that tells you that they are a ranked program. You have up and down years, but they're normally a very good program, which doesn't surprise me coming out of Florida. We all know that Florida is a hotbed for talent, especially with speed. So they're a very good program. They were the only newcomer in the Big 12 last year to go to a bowl. So throughout the Big 12 season, they were 6-6. They finished 6-7 after the loss to Georgia Tech in the bowl that they were in. But for the Big 12, they were 6-6. So coming into a new conference, stepping up into in competition and going 500, that tells you a lot about the guys on that team. That tells you a lot about the coaching staff. They did lose a good quarterback named John Plumlee. He's with the Steelers now. So let's go ahead and get right into the offense. They did pick up a quarterback in the transfer portal from Arkansas named KJ Jefferson. This is one of the guys they did target. They did want him, and they went after him, and they got him. Last year, KJ passed for over 2,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. But he's a very, very inconsistent quarterback, and I'm gonna tell you some weird stats about him. Last year was his worst year passing in the last 3 years since 2021. In 2021, he had over 2,600 yards. He did not have that last year. He threw for more touchdowns in 2022 than he did in 2023. In 2022, he threw 24 touchdowns, and then 19 last year. But he threw for more interceptions in 2023 with 8, and that was the most that he's thrown since he's been a quarterback in the last 3 years. Of course, as far as starting and getting a lot of time. Now the most yards that he's thrown for in a game is 289 yards, and that was against number 13 LSU, and that's not a small feat. Doing that against a ranked LSU team, and LSU was always a good team. Now, how does he compare to Shador as far as stats and getting better year by year? If you know Shador, and you've been following Shador, Shador averages 3,000 yards a season since he's entered college. He averages 32 touchdowns a season, and he doesn't really throw interceptions. I think he had 3 or 4 last year. Um, and that was with a so-called bad line. He's also worked himself into, top draft pick considerations. They're saying he can go first round. They're saying he could be the first quarterback off the board. Who knows? But he's worked himself into, NFL draft pick. At a high pick. So the quarterback, if you want to compare those two, Shador's the better quarterback. It is what it is. So that's my quarterback comparison. The running backs, they will have a guy named running back R.J. Harvey. He's a redshirt senior. He did play at Virginia a while back, which is the ACC. Last year, he rushed for 1,400 yards in 2023. That made him third all time in the UFC record books as far as how many yards in the season. He has 16 touchdowns, which shows you he knows how to find the end zone. He stands at 5'8", 195 pounds, so he's a powerful back. He, like I said, he has a nose for the end zone, and if you know football, the football buffs know exactly what that means. It means that he just knows how to get to that goal line. Now he was a college football network first team All Big 12 mentioned. He was a Phil Steele second team All Big 12 in 2023 as well, and he was an honorable mention as far as a running back All Big 12. So most of these are honorable mentions, in different people's opinions. But that tells you that they think highly of him as a running back. He is a pro prospect. He was one last year. He could have went last year, but he did not like what they told him he would have got drafted, so that's why he came back. But that tells you what type of talent he has, that he would have gotten selected last year. At least he was told he would have. He just did not like the round that he would have been selected. As far as running backs, you got a guy named Kobe Hudson. He'll be their number one receiver this year. He had 44 receptions for 900 yards and 8 touchdowns as the second receiver. He came behind a guy named Javon Bake, who got drafted by the Patriots, and he was a very good player as well. I think he came from either Auburn or Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. So that guy was, good pedigree, and he got almost 1,000 yards off of a 500 team, and where he was the second option. So that tells you a lot about him. I think I told you he got drafted. He was playing behind Javon Bake, who got drafted by the Patriots. His best receiving days or games was he put up 147 yards against Villanova. He put up 138 yards against Kansas State, and he put up 134 yards against Boise State. He did score 3 touchdowns against the number ranked 15th Oklahoma State. They were ranked 15th at the time. He put up 3 touchdowns on them. So that tells you a lot about his talent. The offensive line, they have a good left tackle that they were talking about named Amari Knight. So he's one guy that you're going to have to look out for. But the offensive line is being put together through a couple of transfers. And I'll tell you how much the defense, because we'll get into the defense in a minute, but just to put it into perspective, they signed 15 transfers, which I think is a good number. It's not too many. 9 were on the defensive side of the ball, so that lets you know they're very serious about the defense. They took a guy from East Carolina, they got a guy from Arkansas, they got a guy from Cincinnati, they got a guy from Michigan State, Texas Tech, and Auburn. They got a couple from Cincinnati. So let's go ahead and jump into the defense. The defense, last year they could not stop the run. They were known for that. They finished 122nd out of 130 FBS teams. They allowed 192 yards rushing last year, which is crazy. Normally, especially on the pro level, you don't win a lot of games when you allow that many yards rushing. But they tell you about the fortitude of their team, that the defense was, for the most part, terrible last year. Couldn't stop the run. And they still finished 6-6. So you got to give them credit on that. Like I said, they allowed 192 yards rushing last year. Because of that, they did get a new defensive coordinator named Ted Roof. He was at Auburn in 2010 when they won the national championship. So they got a guy with experience. They got a guy that's seen it all. They got a guy who's won at the highest level. I think he also worked with the head coach, which is one of the reasons they brought him in, because the head coach is going to trust him. They will be led on the defensive side of the ball by multi-year starters Ricky Barber and Lee Hunter. Those guys have been around for a while and got a lot of experience. But their most important piece would be their defensive end. His last name is Lawrence. His first name is Malachi. Don't want to mess his name up. He had a breakout season last year in 2023. He finished second on the team with 8 tackles, 7.58 tackles with 10 tackles for a loss. He was also an All Big 12 honorable mention. And he could get to Shedeur. They're going to have to really concentrate. This is going to probably be one of the games where that new offensive line really get tested, because you have a defensive end who's basically an honorable mention all conference guy who's going to be coming off that edge. So he could get to Shedeur. The linebackers, they have 4 transfers from different schools that they brought in that they think highly of. They brought one in from Vanderbilt, the SEC, Cincinnati, the Big 12, Texas Tech, and Idaho. And they also have a good young kid. He was an Under Armour All-American named Qua Birdsong. So he's supposed to be very good. Obviously, he was an Under Armour All-American. As far as the DBs, they did add a guy named Ladarius Tinson from Ole Miss. Of course, Ole Miss is a highly respected program. He had 26 tackles, no fumbles, no interceptions. So I'm assuming he just wasn't getting a lot of playing time. But their star would be a guy named Brendan Adams. He didn't have a lot of big numbers, but he's been starting since he was a freshman. And anybody who's played major college basketball, football, etc., even mid-major or whatever you want to call it, anytime you come in starting from a freshman, that's a true freshman. And he's kept his position the whole time. So he's highly thought of. He's seen everything. He has a lot of experience, and he's played from day one since he's gotten to the school. So he's going to be a problem. And then also remember this, they have a very good kicker. He was a freshman last year. He's a very dependable kicker. He's a guy you're going to have to look out for. So I'm going to tell you why at the end that I definitely think that I think it'll be a highly competitive game, but I do think that UCF will win the game. For one, after reading up on them, they have a lot of guys. They have a stacked team, but they have depth. That's one of their strengths. Is they have depth. That's one of the things that Colorado does not have. They do not have a lot of depth. Central Florida has a lot of depth. Their quarterback KJ Jefferson, even though his stats are kind of weird, like they're not. His better years was 2 and 3 years ago as far as yardage, et cetera, et cetera. He is good enough to pull off a victory against Colorado, especially being at home, playing in front of those 45,000 players and 45,000 fans, and of course it's Colorado, which is an added boost to beat them. I'm gonna keep saying that because it's true. When you put yourself out there like that, it just gives teams extra motivation, and players know that. So he had the crowd behind them. Their success from last year will give them the experience and the confidence they need because they've been through the Big 12. They know what it's like. They know some of the teams already, and that'll play dividends for them. And just overall, I think they have a better team. I think they were ranked one ahead of. They're both of the teams are ranked in the top 50. One is ranked ahead of the other. Let me see real quick. I actually had it written down, but they're only one ranking apart. Let me see real quick. You have UCF is ranked 43, and Colorado is ranked number 44. So they are or could be considered even, but that's why I think the depth make a difference. At the end, I think Colorado end up 3-2 after this game. I think it'll be a good game. I just think Central Florida, with everything I just mentioned, will win the game maybe by 2 touchdowns. But again, they have the experience of the Big 12 already. They've been through it, and they were a 500 team last year, so nothing will be new to them. It's been Hunt 919, Truth to Sports. Ride with me.
It's been Hunt 919, Truth to Sports. Ride with me.